Kamala Harris doesn't realize it, but she just made the argument about why people on our side feel that there ought not be a law compelling states to pass pro-abortion laws. So I'm watching the hearings yesterday, and there's a witness. Her name is Cassidy Hutchinson. And she testified that Donald Trump, according to a statement she heard from one of the Secret Service agents in the presidential limo, grabbed the steering wheel when Donald Trump refused to go to the Capitol building. And because of all the rioters, she said she hand wrote a letter that she wanted the president to read to tell the rioters to leave right away. And Chris Wallace, who used to be at Fox, he's now over at CNN, just was blown away by her poise and credibility.
Can we talk about Cassidy Hutchinson? First of all, I bow particularly to you, Andy, as somebody involved in prosecutions. She was a great witness. She was absolutely precise. She was
absolutely precise. You cannot get a better witness than this young lady, says Chris Wallace.
She told you, I mean, if she overheard a conversation, she'd say, Cipollone went in the room, he left the door open, he was standing in the transom, I was talking, right. I could hear, when I went into the dining room, I stepped back, but the door was open, I could see Mark Meadows, but in the background, I could hear what Trump and Cipollone were saying.
So she was so precise. She'd say, I was standing, and then when I sat, she'd say I sat. And then when I got up, she'd say, I got up. It was astounding. She was so precise.
She was just brilliant. And really what you're all saying is that to a degree that nobody has up till now, really nobody, think of all the books we've read by all these great investigative reporters, none of them ever had the scene inside the beast, right? So there are some secrets still out there.
The beast is referring to the presidential limo called the Beast. And among other things, she said that the president, as mentioned earlier, was there. He wanted to go to the Capitol building where the riots were taking place. And the Secret Service told him it was not a good idea. And he grabbed the wheel. In other words, she was inside the belly of the beast. Except after she gave a testimony.
Two sources familiar with the investigation confirmed that President Trump had requested to go to the Capitol on January 6th and that the Secret Service refused due to security concerns. One of those sources telling me that the president did return to the vehicle after his speech on the morning of January 6th and asked Agent Robert Engel if he could go to the Capitol. Engel said something to the effect of that being unwise or dangerous and that the motorcade was going to take the president back to the White House. A source close to the Secret Service just told me to expect that the Secret Service will push back against any allegation of an assault against an agent or President Trump reaching for the steering wheel.
Oops. And now NBC.
And that source close to the Secret Service tells me that both the lead agent, Bobby Engel, and the driver of that presidential limousine, the SUV, are prepared to testify under oath that neither man was assaulted and that Mr. Trump never lunged for the steering wheel.
Hey, details, right? She was so precise. I mean, she recounted with the details with such accuracy, such color, such flair. And I talked with Kash Patel yesterday. He was chief of staff of the acting Secretary of Defense. And I said, Kash, didn't anybody check with the Secret Service agents before they trot this woman out? Did they think they were going to get away with this and not get busted? And it looks like Anderson Cooper wanted the same thing. I guess he listens to the Larry Elder Show. Take it away, Anderson.
The Secret Service said today in a statement that the committee didn't ask Secret Service witnesses to respond to Ms. Hutchinson's testimony prior to yesterday's hearing. Given that the committee knew what she was going to say, was it a mistake not to ask the Secret Service about it before she said it publicly?
In a word, duh. Given what she was going to say, was it a mistake? Was it a mistake not to have found out if she's telling the truth? You think? Oh, and there's one more thing. According to the former White House lawyer who was there, she was not the one to hand her that note. And the note said, anyone who entered the Capitol without proper authority should leave immediately. And she testified, she's the one who wrote the note. Liz Cheney said, did you write this note? And she says, yes, I did. And I wanted to give it to the president, and the president didn't want to say it. And now, lawyer says he's willing to testify under oath, White House lawyer. He is the one who wrote the note, not her. And then when the committee was told that the White House lawyer says, I wrote it, she didn't write it, they said, well, it doesn't really matter. The point is, a note was written by somebody, not her. And the president ignored the note. Here's the problem. Yes, a note was written. Yes, the note talked about the urgency of saying something to these rioters. But what about her credibility? She can't even recognize her own handwriting, and she claims she wrote a note she didn't even write. Don't you think that's just a bit of a problem? And by the way, Trump on Truth Social said, sorry, I never, ever grabbed the steering wheel, never did it. I never threw anything against the wall. One of the things they testified is he got so angry, he threw something against the wall. It was ketchup. And somebody had to clean up the ketchup. You have any idea how expensive ketchup is these days?
Oh, that's too expensive. That's expensive.
So he says it never happened. And now this great witness that Chris Wallace praised to the heavens seems to have a few credibility problems. But again, I reiterate my deal, my offer. You people who hate Donald Trump, or you're sort of in the middle, please, I'll continue watching all of these hearings, and I will give you my thoughts on the hearings, provided you also watch 2,000 Mules, the documentary by Dinesh D'Souza, showing all these so-called mules apparently paid to stuff a bunch of boxes, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he only followed the mules that went to 10 or more boxes over a period of time. 10 or more. The ones that went to 9 or 8 or 7, they weren't even included in the film. And then the other one is called Rigged. It's very short, 40 minutes long, and it's about the money that Mark Zuckerberg, sometimes called Zuckerbucks, spent to influence the Democratic turnout. 90% of the money went to influence Democratic turnout. Only 5 or 10% went to influence Republican turnout. But purportedly, the money was just spent to turn out the vote, provided the vote was Democrat. It's called Rigged. It's by Citizens United. You can go online and see it. It's only 40 minutes long. It won't take as much time out of your life as these hearings have taken out of mine. Do we have a deal? Now, can we turn to more fallout from Roe v. Wade? Here's what Charlemagne the God said about the Democrats. They should have anticipated this decision was going to happen. They knew that the Supreme Court was now stocked with right-wing judges that wanted to reconsider Roe v. Wade, but they weren't prepared to take action if and when it happened. Here's what Charlemagne the God said.
Okay, what we witnessed on Friday is the cowardice of the Democratic Party catching up to them, all right? They know what Republicans have been planning for decades. Republicans have never hidden their agenda. They have shown and told us what play they are going to run, and for some reason, Democrats never craft a defense to stop it. All right. I mean, we didn't just get here yesterday, people. Yes, it's easy to point the finger at Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and say, yeah, they put 3 judges on the Supreme Court. That's true. But I feel like the cowardice and inaction from Democrats caused a lot of this. I have a million questions that people smarter than me can answer. OK, why didn't President Obama codify Roe v. Wade like he said he would when he was on the campaign trail?
Charlemagne the God says, hey, the Democrats knew this was coming. They weren't ready. You know who else said it? Chris Hayes on MSNBC, whom I watch so you don't have to.
The Republican Party is why we are here. The new Trump court made its intentions known over the past year. And if you needed another sign this was happening, I mean, a draft of the actual decision itself leaked for the first time in modern history. So no one can say they didn't know this was coming. Now the question is, for the other party, the Democrats, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do next? Democratic Party leadership shouldn't sugarcoat it, pretend there's a magic wand they can wave to reverse this terrible decision. There isn't. But they do need to articulate a plan to fight back. And right now, I got to say, that is shockingly absent.
Okay, so Charlemagne the God accuses the Democrats for not having an action plan. Chris Hayes accuses the Democrats of not having an action plan, right? Well, there is a liberal online media outlet, and they want Chris Hayes fired. Here's what they said, and I'm quoting. We can't just sit back and let this scumbag, Chris Hayes, cost us the midterms while he tries to manipulate liberals' fears and frustrations for the sake of ratings. He's been pulling this crap for years. Enough. We're getting him fired. If you're attacking the Democrats right now, the website said, all you're doing is handing Republicans more votes in the midterms. This is war. And you're playing full time with the other team. Knock it off. Seriously, you're trying to get us killed. Shut up, you pathetic morons. Now, notice they put out no such statement after Charlemagne the God said virtually the same thing Chris Hayes said. Chris Hayes says it, they want him fired. Charlemagne the God says it, crickets. Don't you hate it when that white privilege doesn't kick in? When we come back, Kamala Harris actually made an anti-abortion argument, although she's not even sure she even made it. Do not go away. Fear of out-of-control inflation is hammering the stock market. The S&P 500 having its worst start to the year since World War II. So, not only are your savings worth less, you now have less of your savings. Now might be a good time for you to diversify into gold, the most stable asset in the history of the world. And Birch Gold is a company I trust to help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold and silver. And that's right. Not only will Birch Gold help you fortify your savings with precious metals, they'll help you do it in a tax-sheltered account. So go to larryforgold.com to get a free zero-obligation info kit on holding gold in a tax-sheltered account. Amazon stock down 37% in the last half of the year, Tesla down 40%, and cryptos have been slammed. And many fear the hawkish moves by the Fed could stall the economy. What's your plan? Go to larryforgold.com and get your free no-obligation info kit on gold from Birch Gold. They are the precious metals professionals. I trust them enough to buy from them. Go to larryforgold.com and secure your savings right now. Now, Kamala Harris doesn't realize it, but she just made the argument about why people on our side feel that there ought not be a law compelling states to pass pro-abortion laws. Take it away, Kamala Harris.
And when we think about it, everyone has something at risk on this. First of all, if you are a parent of sons, do think about what this means for the life of your son and what that will mean in terms of the choices he will have.
In other words, if you have a son, tell your son to, I can't find the term, looking for the term, can you help me out here? Take responsibility! Everybody should take responsibility. By the way, a lot of people criticize Kamala Harris for her cackle. That's not the part that I find annoying. What I find annoying is the nodding all the time. If you have sons, tell your sons. Take responsibility. Can you play it again for me, please?
And when we think about it, everyone has something at risk on this. First of all, if you are a parent of sons, do think about what this means for the life of your son and what that will mean in terms of the choices he will have.
Oh, good Lord. Now, AOC said it's the responsibility of the president and Congress to keep the Supreme Court in check. What does that even mean? The Supreme Court is a co-equal branch. The Supreme Court justices have lifetime tenure. What does that even mean, AOC? Please explain.
In denying the human and civil rights of any pregnant person or person that could become pregnant in the United States of America. They have engaged in overreach, and it is the responsibility of the president and Congress to put the Supreme Court in check because they have delegitimized themselves.
What does that even mean? Put him in check? Take him from behind the garage and mug him? Hit him with nunchucks? What are you talking about, put him in check? What does that even mean? And now the people like AOC are saying Congress should have codified Roe v. Wade. So let me try and wrap my mind around this. The Supreme Court says that you cannot force a state into having pro-abortion laws. But Congress can force states into having pro-abortion laws. So it would be unconstitutional for the Supreme Court to strike down all the anti-abortion laws in all the states, but it would be constitutional for Congress to do it. Here's a memo. It's equally illegal. If you really want to change it, you're going to have to introduce an amendment to the Constitution to, quote, codify abortion. And that's not going to happen. So Amazon, the company, says employees of all genders are requesting time off to mourn the end of Roe v. Wade. All genders. You mean both genders? Whatever. Time to mourn mourn the end of Roe v. Wade. I just go home and I'm just gonna take a time off, and I just gotta really? And they're demanding that the company no longer operate in pro-life states. And they're going to cover as much as $4,000 in expenses for employees traveling across state lines to procure an abortion. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? I always thought that an abortion was kind of a private thing. Martha's getting time off. She's going over to California to get an abortion. She'll be back on Tuesday. What? And according to Catholic Vote, more than 30 pregnancy resource centers and offices of pro-life groups have been attacked. Some have been set on fire, windows broken out, and the attacks appear to be organized under the umbrella of two domestic terror groups. Will these be the white terrorists that AG Merrick Garland is concerned about? Jane's Revenge and Ruth Sent Us. Some of the attacks have put up messages: if abortions aren't safe, neither are you. These are the tolerant, sensitive, nonviolent people of the left, right? But I'm sure most of the attacks are mostly peaceful. And Kroger, the grocery retailer, will pay for the travel expenses associated with having an abortion. $4,000 in coverage for health care and travel for reproductive services, which includes abortion. Now, I mentioned the Supreme Court decision on the Second Amendment. New York had a very restrictive law that required you to really show why you needed to have a CCW, a concealed carry weapons permit. And the Supreme Court said, I'm sorry, there's something called the Second Amendment, and you ought not have to demonstrate some sort of special need to get a CCW. So, right after that, California Attorney General has released a bunch of information publicly on people in California that have CCW permits. Shared their home addresses, their phone numbers, and a bunch of people were in the database, including people that were judges, custodial officers, reserve officers. 2,800 people, LA County, with standard licenses also had their information compromised by the leak. This is exactly why people who are pro-Second Amendment are saying we ought not have a national database, we ought not have licensing and registration, because it gives the government the ability to do just this. And they're putting out all this information, in my opinion, in order to scare people into getting CCWs, because they really do fear that there'll be too many guns in the streets. Never mind, those who apply for CCWs are the most law-abiding, and there have been very few adverse events as a result of people with CCWs. The leaked information of gun owners will also likely increase the risk criminals will target their homes for burglaries because they want the guns. And according to The Reload, this has happened over 100,000 times in 2020 alone, that homes have been targeted for their guns. So this is giving criminals Open season, this guy has a gun in this house and the address where the house is. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, let's turn to borders. Our borders are completely out of control since the Biden administration has reversed the Trump policies. There are estimated to be some 1.6 million illegal aliens in the interior of America. We have no idea where they are. They have a court date, and I'm sure they're going to show up for their court date, right? Here is what Joy Reid said about the dead migrants that were found in that Texas van. I think the numbers now is over 54.
Great to see you, my friend. Let's talk about this. It is incredibly tragic, but it feels like these are the kinds of tragedies that happen when you make migration so hard that people become so desperate that they're willing to climb into or put even their children into the back of an air-conditioned truck.
Let's follow logic here. By securing the borders, you're making people illegally enter the country. And if they do something such that it results in their death, you're responsible because you secured your borders. So we have to open the borders so that nobody comes here illegally and ends up in a truck and dies.
What?
By that logic, we ought not have any borders. Oh my goodness, people die in the Rio Grande, so therefore it's our fault. It's our fault for enforcing our laws. It's our fault for having borders. It's our fault for maintaining a country. But have no fear. The new White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, says the borders are closed.
We're focused on them, on the facts, and holding the human strugglers who endangered vulnerable individuals for profits accountable. And we're focused on continuing our historic actions to disrupt dangerous smuggling networks, including through a new anti-smuggling campaign that just in the first 2 months resulted in over 1,800 arrests. But the fact of the matter is the border is closed.
Watch Fox News ever, Karine? Bill Malugin, their reporter on the border. Thousands of people entering the country every single day. But the borders are closed. Even Democrat congresspersons, Rio Grande area, complaining about the borders being open, being wide open. But the borders are closed. Even over on MSNBC that I watch and you don't have to, one of their pundits, Willie Geist, said this.
There was a special election just a couple of weeks ago down along a border district, a place where a Republican hadn't won in a very long time, and a Republican took that district. So we've talked about this with progressive pollsters, by the way, who say this idea that Latino voters in America are all in and they have this open mind and they'll go with Democrats wherever they go on immigration is just wrong. It's just folly, and it's not true, and it's patronizing in many ways to make those assumptions. So yeah, Democrats will have to reassess because some of them may not want to use the word crisis, but it's exactly what it is down along the border when you have.
Did he just now say there's a crisis down along the border? This left-wing guy on MSNBC, did he use the word crisis? But Karine Jean-Pierre says the borders are closed, Mr. Geist.
Customs and Border Patrol having 7,000, 8,000 encounters and apprehensions a day on
8,000 encounters, apprehensions, and that does not count what they call the gotaways. People that they didn't encounter, they just got away. Thus the term got away.
The border, that is a crisis, and it bore its ugly teeth yesterday, Mika, when we saw the story and the images and hearing exactly how those poor people looking for a better life died in the back of a semi-truck.
But, according to Karine Jean-Pierre, the borders are closed. Mr. Kaplan, could I hear that one more time? Karine Jean-Pierre says the borders are closed.
We're focused on them, on the facts, and holding the human strugglers who endangered vulnerable individuals for profits accountable. And we're focused on continuing our historic actions to disrupt dangerous smuggling networks, including through a new anti-smuggling campaign that just in the first 2 months resulted in over 1,800 arrests. But the fact of the matter is the border is closed.
The borders are closed. That's a fact. Now, I've always said, if illegal aliens turn citizens, turn voters, would end up voting Republican, the borders would be shut tighter than the clams behind. There is an executive with the SEIU union. His name is Eliseo Medina. And after Barack Obama won in 2008, he gave a speech and talked about what would happen if 11 million illegal aliens, turned citizens, turned voters voted. Here's what he said.
We reformed the immigration laws. It puts 12 million people on the path to citizenship and eventually voters. Can you imagine if we have even the same ratio, 2 out of 3, if we have 8 million new voters that care about our issues and will be voting, we will create a governing coalition for the long term, not just for an election cycle. The last point I would say, I am absolutely convinced that for immigrants to achieve their dreams, they need the support of progressive America. But I am as equally convinced that for progressive America to achieve its goal of a more just and equitable society, it needs Latinos and immigrants to be on their corner and fighting for the same issues. While we may have our own interests, I absolutely believe that we share a vision of what America can and should be.
If 2 out of 3 voters vote for our issues, he says, it's not like they're hiding it. He's not in some smoke-filled room with a Cohiba cigar and a blue pinstripe suit saying it sotto voce. It's out there. 2 out of 3 are going to vote for us. Do you suppose he'd want the borders open if 2 out of 3 would vote for the Republicans? This is why. This is not hard to understand. What they miscalculated on is they assumed that Hispanics in the country who are here legally, even those who enter the country illegally and then later on obtained citizenship, want this. I've talked many times about the economist, George Borjas, Harvard, probably done more work on the impact of legal and illegal immigration than anybody else. And he says the people that are most hurt by illegal aliens, because most of them coming from the border are unskilled, meaning less than high school, the people most hurt are people working in urban America, black and brown people with high school or less, because they're competing against these illegal aliens for jobs. And the presence of this illegal alien labor puts downward pressure on their wages to the tune, according to a Civil Rights Commission report, of almost $1,800 a year. Now, that report came out several years ago. I'm sure it's well above $2,000 a year now. So the idea that Hispanics want the borders open is what Democrats have always assumed. And as one of the pundits recently just pointed out, a woman, a Mexican-born woman, Latina, won a seat that was held by the Democrats in Texas for 150 years. And she's now flipped it to the Republican. And one of the big issues was immigration. So they're miscalculating, but they're feeling that if a bunch of illegal aliens came up here and ended up becoming voters, they would vote 2 out of 3, according to this guy, for the Democrats. This is why the borders are open. Would they be open if 2 out of 3 would vote Republican? I don't think so. To watch the full show, which airs from Tuesday to Friday, go to epictv.com. Click the link below to get a special 50% off for July the 4th. That's Larry Elder, epictv.com. You will not be disappointed.